In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about why supplements are so important to meet the needs that your body truly has to have optimal health. But we're going to start with what are considered minimals, right? So the RDAs is typically what you see as the standard of what you should get from a vitamins and minerals perspective. But I want to give you some insight as to what that really means and whether or not that's how you actually want to operate. So first, recognize that the RDAs, which stand for Recommended Daily Allowance, were created in 1941. And essentially, they are the amount of a vitamin or mineral that you need to get in order to avoid a deficiency disease. For example, if you don't get enough vitamin D, you get rickets. Rickets is softening and weakening of the bones. In children, it causes deformities. Nobody wants rickets. I would submit to you that this is the wrong perspective, and you'll understand why as I share some of this information. And this is not intended to be advice for you. It's for you to consider. If you truly care about how healthy you are, living in an optimal way, this information can be incredibly valuable for you. I consider the Recommended Daily Allowance the ridiculous daily allowance because it's focused on minimums. Even the word allowance, right, is the wrong context. It's like, well, this is what you should be allowed. No, it's the minimum bar. And when you understand what everything does, and everything does a lot of things in the body. Vitamins and minerals are not isolationists. It's not about it does one thing. That's not how your body works. It's extraordinarily complex. You would recognize the RDAs once you have a deeper understanding as what I would call basic survival minimums. That's really what they are. Yet many studies over the years have shown that people don't even get them from what they eat. And think about the fact that these were created in 1941 when the world was not as full of toxins and chemicals as it is now. So your body has no chance if you're just getting that minimal amount, as you'll recognize. So what I'm going to do is take you through a handful, just a handful of vitamins and minerals. Otherwise, it would take forever to do this. And I'm going to be relatively brief, but it'll give you enough to get an understanding. And another video you might want to watch is the one I recently did on toxins. So you could just look up Todd Burrier and toxins and find that video. That gives you a lot of deep understanding on just how much your body is being bombarded in today's world. The other distinction to recognize too is the difference between RDA and RDV, Recommended Daily Value, which is more of a labeling thing. So you know the percentage of what you're getting supposedly in the food or in the supplement relative to what you need to get from a minimums perspective. But again, minimums perspective. So I'm going to walk you through the basic ones. I'm going to tell you how much I get because in order to share this and do it as authentically as possible, because this is the core of what I teach and have been living, and the results for me have been staggeringly good, especially where I started from a health perspective many, many, many years ago. But that will give you some insight as to, what getting more optimal levels actually means, which must be done through supplementation. You can't do it through food. You could never eat enough food. That food would have too much toxicity in it, would cause you to become massively giant, and you still probably wouldn't get there. So it's got to be a balance, right? Nutritional health is created from a balance of food and complementing through supplementation, quality supplementation, of course. So we'll start with vitamin D. So vitamin D, the RDA for vitamin D is 600 international units. And this particular explanation will give you an understanding of how wacky the RDAs are relative to what your body really wants, because your body knows what it needs. If you go outside in the time of year when you're able to synthesize vitamin D through the sun, which is the optimal way to get it, your body will make anywhere from 10 to 20,000 international units of vitamin D in a half an hour to an hour. Yet the RDA is supposed to be 600 IUs. What do you trust more? Your body's actual true metabolism and what it does? Or what somebody says based on whatever the agenda is. Just throwing that out there for you. But to me, that is the biggest simple example to show you how ridiculous the RDAs actually are. So 600 IUs. So what happens if you don't meet at least that? Rickets for children, and then ultimately osteomalacia and osteoporosis. No big, no big like wonderment there. The other thing to recognize about vitamin D is that you can't absorb calcium properly if you don't have adequate vitamin D. It's also an amazing nutrient for your immune system. I mean, it's one of the reasons people get sick more often in the fall and the winter, because the general cycle would be your vitamin D would be lower because you, in most places, you can't synthesize it in the sun in those periods of time. So your immune system is suppressed. So many. Everything I'm talking about, there's massive amounts of studies to show the truth to you. Personally, I supplement 7,000 units of D a day when I'm outside of the summer season, because I'm outside a lot. So my vitamin D levels are extraordinarily high. And I am never, ever, ever sick. Ever. I'm just never sick. Doesn't matter what the time of year is, what the circumstances are. I do a lot of things to make that possible, but this is one of the foundational ones. And I mentioned calcium. So I'm going to give you an example of, I mentioned that vitamins and minerals do a lot of different things. I'm just going to give you this one example of calcium so that you have some understanding. Again, you can do your own research on everything. It's pretty easy to do that research nowadays. But calcium, most people think, what's calcium for? Bones. That's what they think. Yes, it's definitely, the more calcium you have stronger bones. But you actually store your calcium in your bones. That's where you store it, right? So essentially, if you're not getting enough calcium or you're not getting enough vitamin D to metabolize calcium properly, right, your body starts yanking it out of your bones because it needs to circulate it to do the other things that it does. And here's an example of some of the things just calcium does. Bone and teeth formation. Obviously, you would know that one. Skeletal maintenance in general. That's a big deal. That's a whole body thing. Muscle contraction. You cannot make a muscle without calcium. You can't release it without magnesium, by the way. But muscle contraction isn't about your bicep. It's about every muscle in your whole body, including the most important muscle for survival, which is your heart. Your heart's not going to beat without enough calcium, right? So it's maintaining the rhythm of heart. Smooth muscles also found in the blood vessels, right? So if you don't get enough calcium, those things don't work very properly. And everything I mentioned, you could think about in terms of, well, what ends up happening if that doesn't work well? It's either going to be a pharmaceutical drug or a surgery eventually. That's what it's going to be. Nerve function. It's necessary for transmission of nerve impulses. It works with the neurotransmitter pathways. It's like, I mean, it's involved in so many incredible parts of your life. Hormones, right? It triggers the release of various hormones and messengers in your system. Enzyme function. So it's a cofactor for many enzymes. Which, by the way, if your enzymes don't work, you don't work, because every reaction in your body requires one. Blood clotting. Electrolyte balance, fat burning. I mean, those are just, there's more, but that's what calcium really does. You know, all you know about maybe is bones. It's all it's ever marketed, because most of what you get in your life informationally is not information. It's marketing. It's like a snippet of information to market something for you to buy. Just be real. Call it what it is. Okay, so there's everything I mentioned. You could take that framework for calcium and recognize that they all do a number of crucial things in your body. You do not survive without proper amounts of vitamins and minerals in your body. They're involved in everything. All your hormones, all your enzymes, all your functions, everything. Vitamin E. The RDA for vitamin E is 15 milligrams. If you don't get sufficient amount of vitamin E, neuropathy and nerve damage is the first place it's going to show up, which would be things like imbalance and coordination and muscle weakness. But it's a powerful antioxidant, so it's also playing a bazillion roles in that part. Personally, I get 15 times that amount in my everyday life. 15 times. Vitamin A, 900 to 700 micrograms. If you don't get it, then you're going to get progressive eye disease, which will eventually become permanent blindness. And it starts with night blindness and dry eyes. Again, where are you going to go if you have that? You're probably not going to think about vitamin A. You're probably going to end up watching a pharmaceutical ad, buying a drug. That's probably what you'll do. You're not correcting this problem, which is only going to lead to more problems. I get minimum 4 times that amount. Most of it I get through beta carotene, which the body synthesizes to vitamin A as needed. Vitamin C, this one is just ridiculous. I mean, they're all ridiculous, but 90 to 75 milligrams is the RDA. If you don't get that, you get scurvy. You don't hear a lot about that. Basic things that indicate you're not getting enough vitamin C: fatigue, anemia, bleeding gums, poor wound healing, joint pain. Vitamin C is involved in like 15,000 different metabolic processes. 15,000. I get minimum 10 times that amount on a daily basis and have for 30 years. Right? So I'm just telling you what I do and why at 64 my health is ridiculously good when it was very opposite of that in my youth, in my 20s. Magnesium, 310 to 400. Whenever I give you a 2 different number range, that's because they'll say one for men and one for women. And if you don't get enough of that, hypomagnesiumia, however you say that. Muscle cramps, tremors, fatigue, heart arrhythmias, numbness, tingling, eventually increases in blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis. Right? Again, you're not going to hear, hey, you might need more magnesium. I get a minimum of 3 times the amount of the RDAs on a daily basis. Calcium. I talked about what calcium really does a few minutes ago. 1,000 milligrams is the RDA for that. If you don't meet that, the first thing you're going to think of is osteoporosis. Also, we'll get all the same associated things that you get in magnesium because they work together in so many different ways. And I described the muscle contraction and release earlier. That's calcium, magnesium working together. I get 3 times the amount of the RDA on a daily basis. And then zinc. Zinc, if you don't get enough zinc, growth retardation is the result. It affects significant impacts on immune function, makes you way more susceptible to infections, skin lesions, rashes, dermatitis, impaired reproduction function. Heck, you look at the skin things, how much money is made in the world selling products that address those skin things, when in many cases it's probably just insufficient zinc. It's very, very simple. Always fully nourish the body first. Then you'll figure out what you actually need to address. So I personally get 6 to 7 times the RDA of zinc every single day. And I just don't get viruses. It doesn't matter. I just don't get them, or I should say I don't experience them, because certainly I can track things. But even when I contracted COVID several years ago, I only got tested because my wife had COVID. So I had to get tested. But I never had a symptom. Why? Because I had high amounts of immune nutrients going through my body, high amounts of zinc. So the virus was on me, but it had no effect. It wasn't able to do its thing because there was too much good stuff in my system pushing it away. So again, this is just I gave you a really scaled down version. You could take this for all the B vitamins, all the minerals, and every single thing you look at, you'd be like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. This is what all of this does. Your body needs, for optimal health, it needs high amounts of these nutrients. There's nothing else that's going to give you optimal health. Yeah, you got to do the other things in the health cycle. You got to work. You got to move your body. You got to adequately hydrate. You got to get some rest. But nutrition-wise, you'll never outrun your fork. And if you don't get the proper amount of vitamins and minerals in higher levels, you're going to have problems. Bottom line. We're all going to have problems anyway in some way, shape, or form. But let's not make it harder than it needs to be. Let's get rid of the easy stuff. Let's give the body its tools and let it do its work. Hope that was helpful for you.